Welcome to the Leadership Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Jono White. I'm the founder and principal consultant of Clarity. We are an Australian-based consultancy that works with leaders around the world, and our passion is to invest in people to become everything they're meant to be in order to fill the world with healthy organizations that people love to work for and customers line up to buy from. The goal of this podcast is to invest in you and your leadership. If you're just joining us for the first time, then feel free to check out consultclarity.org. That's our website, consultclarity.org. We have so many free resources on there, the most popular being our 7 Questions on Leadership series. We've had more than 1,500 leaders from around the world in all different sectors give their in-depth answers on leadership, what books they love, what they found most challenging, the most meaningful stories, how they structure their time through the day. That's free, so go and check it out. And we'd love to interview you about your leadership. I believe you have advice from your experience, your context, and your life so far that is important and can help other leaders. It's also a great way to give back. It's free to get involved, and you can do so by going to consultclarity.org/7-questions-interest, or just Google consultclarity.org 7 questions interest and fill out the form that pops up. We have a free resource for you on our website. It's called Leadership Survival Guide. It's a 57-page ebook. It has interviews with 10 world-class leaders, and you can go to consultclarity.org. It's right at the top, and get that today. We also have a daily email that we send out to over 15,000 leaders, and that email contains the highlights, our best content from our podcasts, our blog, my book, the books that we're loving that are out there about leadership. It's also the best way to get access to our masterclasses and workshops before anyone else. And there's also exclusive and limited special options just for subscribers. And you can subscribe by going to consultclarity.org/subscribe. Now, my gift to you is to work incredibly hard to provide the best leadership content I can to invest in you and your leadership. So if you're finding our content helpful, if you find this podcast helpful, then your gift to me could be this. If you do find it helpful, then write a review or rate our content and make sure you subscribe or follow. I can't emphasize enough how helpful that is. It really does help us to get the word out there so we can invest in more leaders to become everything they're meant to be. It also means a lot to me personally when people like you and people in our community share our content on social media. So if you do that, then please do look for me, Jono White, to tag me, and look to tag Clarity on whatever platform you're on. And our team, including me, I'm always looking to see when people have mentioned us so that I can engage with you. And also we look at sharing content. So if you write something about something we've done, there's also a good chance we'll share that with our followers. So if you could do that, that is a massive, massive help as we try to invest in as many leaders as we can around the world. Last of all, you can check out my book about how to deal with difficult people even if you hate conflict. It's called Step Up or Step Out. It's available on Amazon. You can just look up Step Up or Step Out Jono White, or you can go to store.consultclarity.org/book and check it out there. I have coached leader after leader after leader, and in more than 50% of the sessions, this topic comes up. How do I deal with this person? I'm finding it really difficult, and I just want to find a way that doesn't blow up to do just to have a difficult conversation, to lead them better. How do I do that? There's a 3-step process that I outline in this book that I believe can help you. Okay, let's get into today's episode of the Leadership Conversations podcast. Enjoy. Welcome to episode 18 of the Leadership Conversations podcast. I'm Jono White, your host today, and I'm excited to have Mike Pintek. Mike is the president for Nuclear and Precision Health Solutions at Cardinal Health. And the Nuclear and Precision Health Solutions is the part of Cardinal Health that develops, manufactures specific doses annually to thousands of customers via a network of nuclear pharmacies and manufacturing sites that span the United States. Prior to assuming the role of president in August 2021, Mike was Senior Vice President of Commercial Operations and Business Development for the Nuclear and Precision Health Solutions business, where he led all aspects of the commercial and business development operating functions, including strategy development, sales, marketing, pricing, partner management, business intelligence, and analytics. Mike has deep and broad global experience in the healthcare and life science industries. Before joining Cardinal Health, he served as Chief Operating Officer at Luminex Corporation until 2014, where his responsibilities encompassed all aspects of the company's operating functions, including sales, marketing, partner management, business development and licensing, customer service and training, technical support, systems integration, manufacturing, and supply chain. Michael also held several senior leadership positions of increasing responsibility at Roche, including his last position as head of Roche's global transfusion medicine business. In addition, he has served in leadership roles with Ventana Medical Systems and Abbott Laboratories Diagnostics Division. Mike earned a bachelor's degree in business administration from Central Michigan University and has successfully completed executive education programs at the University of Chicago Booth School of Business. Mike, welcome to the podcast. It's wonderful to have you on today.
Jono, thanks for inviting me, and I'm excited about our conversation today. So thanks again.
Yeah, I think I just reading out the bio and hearing about the complexity of what you do. The most recent podcast before this one, episode 17, I was chatting with the chief supply logistics officer, chief supply chain officer for a really large food business, and it's really interesting hearing that. I was saying in that podcast, wow, that sounds complex, and I can't help but think of the same word as I was looking at what you do in your role and what you look after. The word complex comes to mind. That's a really complex operation. So I'd love for you to give our listeners a bit of an overview around who Cardinal Health is, and also what Nuclear and Precision Health Solutions does, and your role as president. What does that look like? What does the team look like? What's your footprint? I've asked you a few things there, but yeah, take it away.
No, thank you, Jono. And I couldn't be more privileged and thrilled to lead Nuclear and Precision Health Solutions at Cardinal Health as president. And as you mentioned, and you covered a lot already in your opening about what we do. But for your listeners who may not be as familiar with Cardinal Health, let me just provide a little bit of background on that as well. We are a global leader in healthcare, and we've been in business over 50 years now with operations in countries around the world, and with more than 44,000 employees worldwide. And we do everything from distribute pharmaceuticals to manufacture and distribute medical and laboratory products. And we also provide performance and data solutions for healthcare facilities to help with their decision-making and their efficiency as well. Now, I have to tell you, I am just really excited about the field of nuclear medicine and the impact that it's having on patients. And, in nuclear medicine, we're really experiencing a growth cycle driven by innovation in theranostics. And we're leading the way to bring important therapeutic innovation that'll benefit patients. Now, your listeners may be asking, what is a theranostic? And a theranostic really includes both a diagnostic or a test to tell a patient, what's wrong with me or what's happening.
Yes.
And also a therapeutic to treat a very specific need, tailored for each individual patient down to the cellular level. So, as you said, it can be very complex. And so, to put that into perspective, if you just take, for example, a patient with prostate cancer, theranostics will now allow a clinician to more precisely target and effectively treat disease for a better outcome. And in some cases, that might be curative. In other cases, it'll make a meaningful improvement in just their standard of living or extension of life. And so we've invested significantly. We built a Center for Theranostics Advancement in Indianapolis. And this really allows us to provide a differentiated end-to-end seamless solution for pharmaceutical companies who are looking to bring new advanced treatments in radiopharmaceuticals to market, where we help them with development, manufacturing, and commercializing novel new therapeutics that can really positively impact patient lives. And I have to tell you, I get very, very excited. It's a very exciting time to be part of all the innovation that's going on in medicine, and in particular in nuclear medicine.
Yeah, it certainly sounds like an extremely innovative part of the medical field, which is, I don't have really much or any experience working in the medical field, but I have to say what you're doing is really fascinating. And so it sounds to me, from I guess, putting back to what you said, there's this opportunity to really personalize therapeutic, and there's that personalized where it actually it's not just something that anyone can take, but this that is going to help a particular person because you're giving them something that's actually made specifically for them down to the cell level. Is that one of the key components of what you were saying?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So the diagnostic radiopharmaceuticals coupled with the therapeutic together, where the diagnostic very specifically down to the cellular level diagnoses the disease or what's happening in the patient, and you have a therapeutic that is very targeted, sometimes using the same radioisotope as a diagnostic, in other cases a different radioisotope that is very targeted at addressing that, say, cancer that might exist in the patient. And so wow, it's a very targeted and precise approach to treating patient disease. And what's so exciting about it is, we all have our personal stories of family members or friends that may have been stricken with disease such as cancer or heart disease or others. The new therapeutics that are really coming to market are really going to provide an impact and a difference in patient lives. And I will tell you, that's what gets us out of bed in the morning and makes us so excited about where nuclear medicine is headed and the impact that it's going to have very directly on patient lives.
Yeah, that's incredible, mind-blowing, and very exciting. And I can imagine there must be so much purpose. You'd have some truly meaningful testimonials coming from people whose lives have been completely, transformed and even saved by some of the products. I think that's, from a leadership perspective, I think that's exciting because you can tie what you're doing directly to saving lives. I think from that perspective, it's exciting. Let's hear a bit more about you. I know listeners would love to hear, Mike's story of, and you can go back as far as you want. You can, you can share as much as you want, and particularly any moments that you think back to that really shaped who you are today. That really shaped you becoming the leader that you are today.
Yeah, well, I guess I'll start with the fact that I've always been driven for results and also having a positive and lasting impact on people's lives. And I think it's one thing as a leader to achieve results, regardless if your results are for a business or you're a superintendent of a school system and the school system achieves certain results. But that's only half the success, is achieving those results. The other half of the success is making a meaningful difference in the people's lives on the team and who you serve. And so that's why I've always been passionate about healthcare, and I've always been passionate about serving others as a leader, not only to achieve results, but also to help people realize their career ambitions or their personal goals as well along that path. And I would say my leadership philosophy really begins and ends with a team first approach, which was, I would say, early on in my life through my participation in sports. In fact, I can remember back to my senior year of high school football in Michigan, and that is further back than I would care to admit, Jono.
1990, right?
Right, yeah.
That's right.
You're not far off. It seems like yesterday. But But, as we entered that year, we entered with really high expectations for a conference and potential state championship run. However, I could tell you the season didn't start out as planned, and our championship run hopes were essentially gone. And I remember our coach pulling us together as a team and, highlighting the fact that we really weren't playing together for success of the team. Rather, we were playing for individual success.
Yeah.
And we had really lost sight of the fact that, talent may win you some games, but teamwork wins championships. And at that moment, we decided to put the team first. And while we didn't realize our dreams of a state championship run, I would say we gained I gained a very incredible, valuable life lesson. And that's something I've carried forward throughout my life and shaped who I am as a leader.
Yeah, I love that. And I love the idea of team first. It reminds me of Patrick Lencione, who's one of my favorite leadership authors, and I love his work. He talks about the difference between a working group and a team. And I love sport, so I'm all about the sports stories and sort of metaphors. But he talks about a working group is like you're playing golf, and there's 4 of you, and you all tee off, and you get to the end of 18, and you look back and you say, oh, you've got 4 over, I got 4 under, and you've each got your own score. But if you actually want to lead a team, and I think you said it, and it's so simple, isn't it? But talent wins you games, but teamwork wins you championships. That is just leadership. That is such a great leadership principle, and leadership as a team first approach looks much less like golf, which I love golf, but it's not a team sport, right? Unless you play like a team version of it. Normally, you are keeping your own score, and when you're playing a team sport, it's about stretching. It's about that one score, and it doesn't matter if I had a good or a bad day. It's about how we did as a team, and that mentality. I love that. That's your approach. Are there any other moments as you look back on your career that you think that leader, like you mentioned, the coach that you had there, or that moment where you were leading someone, or where you experienced something and you look back and think that was a real tipping point or something that really shaped your leadership today?
Certainly, I would say, I would say I've really been blessed to work
for some of the most influential and impactful leaders in healthcare during my career. And I've had experiences where I learned what to do, and I've had experiences where I also learned what not to do. And that's something I've carried through all my life. I'm still learning today. The one key principle that I think is really, really important as a leader is you never stop learning. You never reach the pinnacle and then you're done. You never stop learning, because the minute you stop learning, then that's the point when you really start to fail. There's always something new to learn. And I could tell, as I said, I've learned both from success and failure, and understanding what my true north is in terms of the leader I aspire to be. And that's one of high integrity, to be mission driven,
inclusive of others. If you're able to attract top talent and form that.
Mike, I'll just stop you there.
And be authentic with people.
It was just cutting out a little bit there. Can you hear me?
Oh yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, sorry, it's just cutting out.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, it was just cutting out a little bit there. I don't know if that was I don't know if that was a connection thing, but can you just repeat the last? If you just go back to the start of the about maybe just explaining the sort of leader that you are around integrity. I think it was just cutting out a little bit in that bit. So if I just leave a little break now and you jump back in, we'll just edit that.
Okay, great. Would you like me just to start from the beginning? Would that be easier, or?
Yeah, just start from the beginning of that thought. Yeah.
Well, Jono, I would just add that I've been blessed to work for some of the most influential and impactful leaders in healthcare during my career. And I can tell you, and I've learned along the way, I've had experiences where I've learned what to do, and I've had experiences that have taught me what not to do as well. And really learning from both success and failure, and grounding myself in what my true north is in terms of the leader I aspire to be. And if I were to describe that to someone else, it would be a leader of high integrity, be a leader that's mission driven, a leader that's accountable, a leader that's inclusive of others. We talk about, hiring and retaining top talent. It's one thing to hire and retain top talent, which is absolutely crucial to success, but then it's forming that team around that top talent. And then also being authentic with people, whether that be, something that happens that's good or something that happens that didn't go according to plan. It's really critical that you're transparent and authentic as a leader. Because, let's face it, you spend a lot of time with your team and the people that you work with, and it becomes a family of its own of sorts, I believe, as well. So those are things that I have learned through my career as well. And I think it's really important as a leader that, you establish the type of leader that you aspire to be and what your true north is.
Yeah, I think, and you used some great words to describe your true north. If you were sitting down with a young leader who was stepping into their first opportunity to lead people rather than to do tasks, where they're really stepping into a role where they're going to be leading a team for the first time, and you had the chance to I guess, give them some thoughts around how to, as a young leader, how to move towards that true north for them, and to start learning and working towards being a great leader, what would your advice be?
Well, I would start by ensuring that they understand that leadership is about serving others. I believe in the adage, to whom much has been given, much is expected. So in other words, I really believe that as a leader, your role is to ensure, and what I mean by that is, as a leader, your role is to ensure that your organization or team thrives by serving the members of your team, by providing inspiration and a vision for what the team is committed to achieve, ensuring that everyone on the team clearly understands the plan to realize that vision, and equally as important, I would say, that everyone on the team understands how they individually contribute to making that outcome and that vision a reality. Then the leader's role is to get out of their way and support the team to ensure their success. And that could be, ensuring if they have questions, you provide clarity about the direction, providing constant coaching and removing obstacles so that both the business and the individuals on the team thrive. And in the end, realizing something larger together as a team than could otherwise be realized by any one individual on the team themselves. I think that's what, as you look back in your career and you realize, wow, here's something we really achieved as a team, whether it be, wow, we really achieved this major goal, we had this huge win, we really transformed this business. When you look back on what you were part of, those are moments you remember in your career. I would also tell them that, as you go through your career, to be, as I mentioned just a moment ago, be inquisitive, keep an open mind, and be prepared to learn something new every day. I still, as a leader, learn something new every single day. Push yourself and take some risks, and push yourself to grow and take on assignments that might stretch you, even if you're not the expert. I would also tell them to surround themselves with top diverse talent, and always remember that, again, leadership is about working with others to help them be successful in achieving the larger vision. And as a leader, then you will be successful as well. And, on that note, you asked me a moment ago, Jono, about, something that I've seen that another leader may have really influenced and really impacted my thinking as a leader. Years back, I worked for a great leader in my career that had a really positive influence on me. And one of the things he always used to say was, attract top talent, train them to go, and motivate them to stay. And what he meant by that is hire people that everyone else wants, hire the top talent. And then when you bring them in, train them to make them better and really attract, and so that they can succeed and thrive. And when you do that, other companies are going to want to take those individuals or attract those individuals to their companies, but create the environment where they want to stay and they don't want to go. And that is when you have a highly functioning team and organization. And I really believe that creating a culture where everyone feels like they are seen, heard, and belong are really important, and in keeping the focus on the success of the team. And then the last thing I would tell a new leader is that remember, there's always a solution to every problem. There's always a solution. It may not be apparent, but there's always a solution. And so an important part of leadership is listening and, making sure you get the perspectives of people on your team, and even press for dissenting opinions to really make sure when you're faced with a complex issue that you're able to think through it. And I promise you that while in the business that I am in and our team is in at Cardinal Health, it can be very complex. There's a lot of moving parts, and therefore you can have complex problems, but there's always a solution. And the last thing I would say is enjoy the heck out of the journey, because it's a lot of fun.
I think that's basically a handbook, Leadership 101, you've just unpacked there. It's really good. No, there's some, there aren't some. There's so much great thoughts. I love what the leader that you said you had that great leader. I just think if you can find and hire top talent and train them up so they could go anywhere, but then motivate them so that they choose to stay because they're part of something bigger than themselves. And that is such great advice. I couldn't echo that more. And I want to go back and listen to what you said there again. And I think I will, because there was just about 10 different nuggets in there that are fantastic. Okay, so team first. Let's talk about building a team. If you walked into a team and you had to start from scratch in terms of building a team, but there was a group of people already there, and Mike walks in, and you could only do one thing, one initiative, bring one idea, have one sort of tool that you use. I asked someone this in one of the previous episodes, and they cheated and had two things, which actually were fantastic. So you can do the same if you want. But what would be, if you had to sort of really narrow it down, and you were in that situation needing to build a team, and you had to really narrow it down to one or maybe a couple, what would you do? What would you choose? What would you focus on to build a team?
Yeah, well, I think I would focus on, I'd start with, what is our vision as a team and what are we seeking to achieve, and gain alignment on that. Now, I didn't say consensus, I said alignment. and so and then as you take a step back and you have alignment on, here's the vision we want to achieve, here's the goals that we want to realize to achieve that vision. Then you can take a step back and say, okay, do we have the right talent and the right people to achieve that? And where there were gaps, or we had to bring on new people, I would say I would always seek to hire people better than myself. And I think this is an important point where, I mentioned earlier in our conversation, Jono, that, I've learned from great leaders what to do, and I've also learned through experience what not to do. And I've seen leaders make the mistake of making the transition from, how they built their success, maybe started out in their career as an individual contributor, and it was all about what they did and what they produced, to now having to lead a team of people. And I've seen leaders make the mistake of being a little nervous about hiring people better than them at certain things, whether it be, you hire your head of marketing and they're just better at you than marketing, or hire a head of sales or finance, et cetera. I've always been a proponent of hiring people better than myself, because understanding as a leader that you want the team to be great. It's not about you, it's about the team. And if you bring on that top talent, you will be well on your way to realizing success. I've seen many companies in my career that had a great product. They had everything, there to realize success, but they just didn't have the top talent. And a lot of times I've seen it because the leader, can't attract that top talent, or is fearful of hiring someone that might be more talented in an area than themselves. And that might affect them somehow. I think that's a mistake. I've always been a proponent of hiring people better than myself, and through that, I'm very proud of the fact that a lot of people that have worked for me before are now in senior level positions at both large and small companies, and we still keep in contact with each other because not only did we achieve business success, but they also achieved their personal success too. And everyone grew because of that top talent. So, I think it comes down to knowing where you're headed, how you're going to get there, having the right team, and then creating that winning culture where people can really thrive. And then the other thing I would say as a leader, and I'm going far beyond the person who gave you two things.
No, go for it. I love it.
I would say that, celebrate the wins, and when the team fails or you don't realize an objective, making sure within the team people are accountable, so you learn from your mistakes and you get better that way, because that's what championship teams do. But as a leader, you take that on yourself when reporting up, right? And so I've always said to, within our teams, if we fall short, I'll take that on as a leader. Within the team, we're going to have accountability, so we understand what happened, what we could have done differently, and how we would do it differently moving forward. But then, I will take on that burden. And when we celebrate success, it will be about the team and the individuals that achieve that success. And so, in my view, the best leaders are selfless, and it's all about achieving the end result while lifting people up.
What's fascinating? This is episode 18, and just as a little anecdotal piece of data, and people can go back and listen to all the episodes to see this, but there's chatting with great leaders from around the world in all different sectors. There's a bunch of things that are very different, and then that would have to be one thing that I think has come up multiple times. I can't think of how many. The amount of leaders so far, and also in my coaching, great leaders have this in common, and I've seen it so many times, and that's why I love that you just mentioned it, is that when the team drops the ball, when we make a mistake, when we don't hit our goals, I'm going to take it as a leader. And when the team smashes the goals, has amazing success, then I'm going to point to the team and point to the individuals in my team. That has come up more than almost anything else so far, which I think is just testament to how, and on the flip side, in my coaching, I can't tell you the number of leaders I work with who, because there's that saying, people don't leave companies, people don't leave jobs, they leave managers, or they leave people, they leave leaders. And one of the biggest and best ways in terms of what not to do to break trust is to not have your people's back. And you do that by doing the inverse. When we drop the ball, I point and I blame it on the team. And when we have a success, I stand up and say, wow, I can't believe I did it. I really did it, didn't I? And if you do that, it's sort of, I think I knew that was important, but in the past couple of months, I think that's risen in how much I truly believe that is something that great leaders have in common as a really pivotal part of how they lead.
Yeah, I would agree. And I would add, people hear your words, but they follow your actions as a leader. So, you could say all the right things, but they really, when no one's watching, how do you respond? And, when things get challenging, how do you respond? Because everyone can be a great leader when things are going swimmingly well. It's when you hit challenging times that, your team will always look to you as a leader to say, how do you respond to that?
Yeah, that's right.
I think they that ends up over time looking to the character of the leader as well.
I'm reminded of I'm loving the fact that you started by talking about your playing sport when in teams, and I'm just reminded of the Liverpool football or soccer manager Jurgen Klopp. I'm a big soccer fan. I follow the Premier League in England, and I'm trying to develop. My brother-in-law loves the NFL and baseball, so I'm learning to love American sport, because I love all sports. So that's a journey, because I can see why everyone loves it. When you're trying to sort of train yourself to love something. Anyway, it's a work in progress. But Liverpool, so I love this coach. If anyone's looking for someone really interesting to watch as a leader, there's a couple of things Jurgen Klopp does. But it just reminded me, what you said then just reminded me of. So they've been on a phenomenal run, for the past few years, but they had this one game and they lost. I think it was 7-1, and it was completely out of the blue, and you could really see not so much the players, but you could see everyone around, the fans, you could see the press, and they were all watching for the reaction, in terms of, you can't have much more challenging moment than a team. And they'd sort of been to the pinnacle, and I think everyone was going, is this the time when they start to slide? And so I remember a reporter saying to Jurgen Klopp, with this really dramatic, angsty sort of, Jurgen, your team lost 7-1 today, as one of the teams that's been unbeatable. Wow, you lost 7-1. Can you even, could you believe what you were seeing? And I remember watching with such intrigue, and his response was a real representation of what you're talking about. Because it was his moment, it was his chance, where I've seen other coaches in that moment say, I couldn't believe it, the team were terrible. But he was very calm, and he said, yes, yes, I could believe it, because I was watching it. and he said, we were outplayed. They played so much better than us today. And yeah, it's but this sort of can happen in soccer, so we've got to go and focus on next week. And what I loved about it was, in that moment, and I can imagine that the players would have been, there was so much opportunity for it to fall apart, but he did exactly what you're saying, which is, in the most challenging moment, he proved to have the players back. He didn't throw them under the bus. He took ownership over the result, but he also didn't make it bigger than it was, and he kept calm. And just what you said there reminded me of that.
Yeah, I think that is, really, really important, and a great leadership lesson as well. You'll always be faced with challenges, but keeping the team focused on, how to resolve it or mitigate it, or ensure that, we experience greater success in the future, is what's really important. Because, last I checked, they haven't invented time travel where you can go back and prevent that outcome from happening. So, what's really important is that you acknowledge it, right? You're authentic. You recognize it, and you're honest about it, and then figure out how you're going to get better and move forward. And the greatest championship teams in the world make mistakes every single day. I make mistakes every single day. It's about learning from those and continuing to get better and better every day.
Yeah, in terms of learning from not only mistakes, but learning from people, like I just mentioned Jurgen Klopp and how much I love him, but obviously books. In terms of, I would think, well, there's probably two questions I'd love to ask you here. What are the best ways for you to continue learning? Because you've been leading a long time now, and in senior roles, and there would have to be some things don't get less busy. The size of responsibility and the importance of decisions doesn't get less in a role like yours. It would only get more. So I imagine you'd have to be very intentional about how you continue learning. So I'm interested in where you go. Like, what do you do to invest in your own learning? And then specific to books, I love that sort of question. What book do you gift most? Is there a book, or are there a couple of books where you think if you think back, you've gifted a lot of them to other leaders as you have to read this? So yeah, two questions there. What do you do intentionally to invest in your learning, and what book or books do you tend to gift others around business and leadership?
Yeah, well, I would say that, in terms of learning, I think I learn every day by just, I learn from my team, I learn from my colleagues. I think it's really important, again, that you always seek to understand first, listen more than you speak, and be transparent and open, and be open to a dialogue where, you may take a position without all the facts that, you may get pushback on, or people may disagree with you on, but it's in that dialogue, it's in that debate, just in what you do every day on the job or as a leader, that you learn a lot from, because you gain additional perspective. And also keeping an open mind that, there might be multiple solutions to a problem, and there's not, and that there always is a solution, but there might be multiple ways to solve the problem, and that it's not as important that yours is right. It's just important that you arrive at the best answer to achieve success. And so I think, first of all, I start with always checking myself and keeping an open mind, whether that be engaging my team, whether that be engaging my peers, or, my boss, or whatever forum that takes, even with the, engaging the board of directors, always listening and learning from those experiences. I also think it's really important to invest in yourself in areas where you want to sharpen your skills as well. So through my career, I graduated from college with a degree in marketing and management, and I knew that one area that, as I developed in my career, I wanted to sharpen my financial skills as well, which was very important. So, I always had supportive leaders that allowed me to, whether it be take classes or take on projects where, those I would gain more experiences, and also gain experiences where I would sharpen my, financial acumen over the course of my career as well, which has been really important. And then I do read books. One book in particular that, had an impact on me that I thought was a very easy read and very good was called, and I still have it on my desk today, The 4 Obsessions of an Extraordinary Executive by Patrick Lincione. And he's also the author of 5 Temptations of a CEO. And, I really appreciate his style, and again, a very easy read. And so I think it's important that you read and you find what interests you. But also, as you develop throughout your career, think about what you want to do in your career is another piece of advice I would give people. A lot of times I find people that will come to me and say, well, I'm ready for a promotion. Okay, well, what do you want to do? And they can think about, typically when they come to you and sit down with that, it's, well, I want to move from a manager to a director. I want to move from a director to vice president. And I always ask people to take a step back and think of 2 things. It's great to think of short term and you want a title, but what do you want to do? So do you want to be an expert in your field, whether that be marketing or sales or finance, or do you want more of a general management, leading to a chief operating officer or CEO type of path? Is that the path you want to take? Because those are very different journeys in your career. And if you want to take the GM or CEO path one day, that's terrific. Let's look at the broad set of experiences you had, or what you might need to gain along the way to be able to perform in that role. If you want to be the head of marketing, vice president of marketing, and that's your career ambition, great. Then how do we build you towards that ambition, which would look different from a GM role? And so I think when everyone thinks about how they want to develop professionally and as a leader, to really also give thought to what are your real interests long term, And then you can build a career plan towards that, which will inform what skills do you want to sharpen, what books might I read to help develop myself as well. I think that's important for people to consider also. Well, I would just say, if you're struggling with what your vision is, I always like to start with the team to say, what is that big, audacious goal that we want to achieve? Because very often people are thinking near term, okay, I've got to deliver a certain growth number next year, or we want to achieve this in the business next year. Sometimes it's very easy to think 12 to only 18 months out. But if you look 5 years out in terms of what impact you're going to have as a business, not only in terms of for the company, but also for the customers you serve and their customers. In our case, that would be, healthcare providers and patients that our customers serve and we serve. What is it that you want vision? And so I think the best place to start is to have, a very large vision and create that big goal that you want to achieve. In another business that I was in years ago, we had a vision. We called it the 5 by 5 by 5 vision. We wanted to operate on 5 continents, be the leader in 5 categories, and have 5 product lines that were above a certain revenue amount, and like each above $100 million. And so, those were different objectives at the time, but they built off a very large vision and very big goals that we were seeking to achieve.
Yeah, incredible. I love the 5 by 5 by 5. I think if you can take that really big vision and make it something that's very digestible and something that's easy for people to remember, I think that helps so much. And then break it down and review and keep it in front of people. I think there's some great thoughts in there. Just as we wrap up, Mike, did you have any final thoughts for listeners?
No, I wanted to tap onto something you just said as well, Jono, is it has to be memorable, and it has to be a vision and objectives that the team can remember too. Because if it's overly complicated and they can't remember it, it doesn't provide motivation. And you also have to measure it, right? So people it has to be memorable. People have to be able to easily remember what it is. And then, you're constantly tracking to show people that we're making progress towards that goal. And that gets a team really motivated. So I thought that was an important point that you mentioned.
Yeah, thank you. No, I appreciate you sort of doubling down on that. I agree that sort of making it memorable is underrated, because that's so important. So, Mike, I guess as we wrap up, did you have any final thoughts for listeners?
Yeah, well, first, Jono, I'd say thank you for having me on. I've really enjoyed the conversation. And again, I would just leave listeners with this thought that remember that leadership is about serving others. I would say continue to be inquisitive and learn every day, and push yourself to grow as a leader, and just really enjoy the journey and the reward of helping not only achieve results for the business, but even equally and more important is seeing your team thrive and do well and advance their professional and personal goals as well. And so I found it very rewarding, and hope your listeners will too throughout their career.
Yeah, excellent advice. And I think there's been so much advice. I think listeners, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a few people going back and having a second listen. There were just a few points today where you sort of listed off 10 things, and I thought, I want to go back, and that was great. And then you went on something else, and there was some really good multiple sort of thoughts that I think will be really valuable. So big thank you to our listeners. I really appreciate you tuning in. And I know for a fact that today's conversation with Mike has been a great investment in your leadership, and make sure you work out really clearly what you're going to do out of today and what you're going to maybe change as a result of what you've heard today. And a massive thank you to Mike Pintek. Mike, it's been a pleasure, and honestly very, very rich insights, and I've really enjoyed it, and I've really appreciated you giving your time and sharing today.
Well, Jono, thank you again for inviting me on, and I hope to be invited in the future as well. Thank you.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode of the Leadership Conversations podcast as much as I did. If you're joining us for the first time, don't forget to check out consultclarity.org. That's our website, consultclarity.org. We have so many free resources on there, including our 7 Questions on Leadership series. We've had more than 1,500 leaders from all over the world in all different roles, in different industries, answer these 7 questions on leadership, and leaders give these in-depth answers around how they spend their time, a book that's been significant for them. It's just a gold mine. It's completely free to access, so go to consultclarity.org and look for that. We'd also love to interview you about your leadership. I believe your experience, your life, your context means that you have advice on leadership that other leaders can learn from. Yes, you, if you're going, not me, well, no, I really believe you would have something to add. So if you're looking for a way to give back, it's completely free to get involved. And we would love to interview you through the 7 Questions on Leadership. You just go to consultclarity.org/7-questions-interest, or Google consultclarity.org 7 questions interest and fill out the form and get involved. We have a free resource on our website called the Leadership Survival Guide. It's a 57-page ebook, 10 world-class leaders giving their thoughts on leadership, and that's completely free. It's available on our homepage, consultclarity.org, right at the top, so make sure you go and get that and download it today. And we have a free daily email that you can subscribe to. We send this out to over 15,000 leaders from around the world. And it contains the highlights of content from our podcasts, our blogs, our books we're reading. It's got the best content, and it gives you exclusive, limited, early access to our masterclasses, workshops, new products, special offers. It's all for our subscribers. You can go to consultclarity.org/subscribe and join 15,000 other leaders. And you know, my gift to you is to work really hard, particularly through the Leadership Conversations podcast. I have been blown away by the quality of the leaders, and I'm learning as much as anyone in doing these interviews. So I'm having a great time. And my gift to you is to keep lining up the best leaders I can to invest in your leadership. Your gift to me, if you're finding this helpful, there is something that you could do that would help us out massively. And that is to write a review and to leave a rating for our podcast or wherever you're watching or listening to this. I can't tell you how much that helps us out. Also, subscribe or follow. It really does make a difference in helping us to help more leaders become everything they're meant to be. Another thing that means a lot to me personally is when I see our community share our content. So if you do share this or any other piece of content on social media, then thank you, and please do that. And look for me, Jono White, or Clarity, and tag us in your post. Our team is always looking for posts to engage with from our community, and there's also a chance that we'll share your content to go beyond and share it with our followers. Last of all, you can check out my book. It's called Step Up or Step Out: How to Deal with Difficult People Even If You Hate Conflict. I wrote this book because 50% of the coaching sessions I have with leaders, this topic comes up again and again and again. And it's this idea of, how do I have this difficult conversation? How do I lead this person better when I'm finding them difficult? Or in some cases, you look and you say, I think I might be leading a difficult person. They're just quite difficult to lead, or I'm finding them quite difficult to lead. So there's a 3-step process that I unpack in Step Up or Step Out. And the amazing thing, and I've literally done this myself, and I've heard it anecdotally from other leaders as I've coached them, is that if you follow this process, you will see that person step up and change their behavior or make a decision, which is to step out some of the time. 95% of the time, people will step up or step out in just 4 weeks. And I stand by that. It's you have to read the book to understand, but I really do believe in it, and I've experienced it firsthand. It works. So you can go to Amazon, look up Step Up or Step Out Jono White, or store.consultclarity.org/book. Well, thank you so much for listening. We're going to be back with a new episode next time of the Leadership Conversations podcast. And I hope today has helped you to take another step towards becoming the leader you're meant to be. See you next time.